Well, welcome back to Roanoke Ridge Outdoors. Well, you might have seen my last video about how to do a pallet wall in an oversized three-car garage. These are huge ceilings and they're huge walls, and it took a lot of wood. Even got injured where I had to go to the hospital and I had a surgery basically to repair my right arm. But all in all, with the exception of that, what a great experience. So the first time that I really needed help here at our new house that we built at Roanoke Ridge, I needed help trying to figure out how to fix my water heater. And I was just determined to do it myself. And I'm not a construction type guy, I'm not a mechanical type guy. I solve crimes for a living, so not my thing to fix things and construct and whatnot. I just got tired of paying people you can't rely on, you can't trust, who they are, they're in your house, to come in and charge a bunch of money for something maybe I could do. Should have started thinking like that a long time ago, right? So I actually went on YouTube on my water heater, which wasn't working right, which is only 6 years old at the time, and had to replace both thermostats and I had to replace both heating coils. Maybe not all of them, but I did it while I was in there and I did it by watching YouTube. Some friendly, nice guy just said, hey, this is how I did it. This is what I did to make this happen, so you have to pay someone else to do it. Kind of like that idea, right? Well, that's me paying that dude back and then showing you guys how to maybe do this to save a ton of money. So you can see behind me part of the wall, and the other sides we'll get to eventually. I'm gonna make this as quickly as possible for you to kind of show you what happened here. So this is a little bit reversed. I should have told you how I was gonna do it and then show you what I did. It's opposite, and it's opposite because I didn't plan to do a YouTube video on it, and I didn't plan on doing anything other than chronologically showing exactly what I did. So since I put that video on first, which is fine, now I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Your first journey will be determining what kind of wall you want to have. You could do a tin wall, you could do one of those like diamond plate walls, you can do some sort of wood tongue and groove. All those things cost a lot of money if you have a huge garage like we do. So I thought that I'd first go to our big box store, which I live on top of a hill overlooking the lake. I'm not living near a town or a city. The closest place is like 11 miles away, not bad. Small town, they have one big store, it's a Menards. It's like what you might know as a Lowe's or a Home Depot. Oh, I priced it out for tin, like white tin. I was gonna make this real bright white, so it would just light up hugely. And it was about $4,000 to do this whole project. Didn't like the sound of that. So then I said, well, wood's gotta be cheaper. Maybe it's just because of the times we live in. The tin's more expensive. Nope. Wood was even more. And the quality of wood was just not good. It was not pretty, designed, I don't know the right word, just did not look good as to how I wanted it to look, rugged and natural and not like manufactured to where it looks like fake or rugged wood. So I decided I was going to do a pallet wall. What an ordeal. I'll tell you that right now. Wasn't easy. First thing I thought was, where am I going to find them? So I drove uptown to the larger of the two towns I live by. It's about population 14,000, just to give you an idea. Get up there. I'm going through everywhere I can find. I don't see pallets until I get into alleys. I get into alleys, and I find pallets in the alleys behind businesses. Well, you don't want to just walk in to an alley and throw something in your truck and drive away. Doesn't look good. People may not, look upon it as if you're just helping yourself and it's okay because it's trash. Some people say it's in the alley, if it's trash, it's trash. What if those folks are having to pay someone to pick that up? Or what if those folks are wanting to keep that for now and it's still on their property because it's in the alley next to the public domain, which is the alley? Yeah, a little bit of a legal thing there, but I digress. I think it's always best to get permission from anybody if you're going to take anything from their location, their business, their house, whatever. I found that most carpet places have their pallets just chock full of carpet remnants, carpet items, flooring, tile. Great place to look there. That was my first one. Second one I went to was a home furnishings place. Wouldn't have thought this would be a place to go, but it was. We're talking, when I say home furnishings, nothing like this, but well, it could be something like this, but things that they have for home design, things to put up on the wall, signs, welcome home, or this is home, or welcome to our farm, whatever. All that stuff comes in, guess what? In cardboard boxes wrapped in plastic on pallets. So I talked to them. They're like, you know what? We actually have to put this stuff out and have people come and pay for it to take it away. So yeah, that'd be great if you can get it. So there's number 2. Number 3, I thought if the first choice of the carpet place worked, go to the other carpet place. Did that. Went to go talk to them. They're like, look, we got this big load slide off dumpster. And if you pick those up, we don't have to pay them to empty the dumpster each time. I was a hero. There it was. So that's what I did. I had those 3. And then I just happened, next to the carpet place, there was an appliance place, and they had washers, dryers, refrigerators, stoves. And I thought, let's check it out. I go there, they have a place inside where they keep them to be picked up, and they had to pay to get rid of them as well. Well, I thought this is great. So I became the local hero with those 4 companies, and I would weekly just go make one trip on a Friday and pick them all up. Now, it could be anywhere from 4 to 5 pallets a day, but they worked out something where I could get them at the end of the week. So I'd always have at least 20 to 25 pallets. So I take those pallets, 25 a week or so on the average, and I bring them back here to Roanoke Ridge. And in the garage is where I actually stored them. And 25 pallets was enough to where I could at least break them down, get rid of the refuge, what was left, and be able to measure and figure all the boards out. So in my previous video, take a look at that, because a lot of people have looked at it. You can see how easily it is. It's time consuming, but you can do this. I'm not a construction guy, once stated. I'm telling you, you can do this. This isn't just for a garage. You could use it for like the back wall of your master bedroom. You could use it in a tool shop. You could use it in an office. I mean, a mud room in your house. Anything you could think like that is really a cool accent for an outdoorsy look. Well, my wife and I went to one of the first places before we had those 4 locations locked in. Went to a different place where we had seen a mountain of like 50, maybe 75 pallets. It was like striking a slot machine gold. It was everything we needed, and we knew they were going to have a steady stream of pallets. One of the first times we went there, with permission, we took a smaller vehicle in my truck. We took a Jeep actually, and we loaded just as many pallets as we could inside. And while we were doing this, a truck pulls up and is kind of just eye-dogging us, right? And I give him the old Irish, hey, what's up, buddy? But no wave back, just stood there staring. I know I had permission, the place had cameras, everyone knew I was there. I asked. This guy wasn't so friendly, and I knew the company, and I knew he didn't work for the company, so I don't know what he was so upset about. Long story short is this. Pallets are a commodity. Believe it or not. People used to look at them like they're trash. People used to look at them like they're throwaways or burn them or let's take it to the bonfire this weekend. Not anymore. The economy is so tight, it's so bad. That's why you're watching this, to find out how to do this cheaply. I assume. So when I left, my wife and I waved and gave him the old Irish wave, he wasn't so happy. It was like I was a dog coming into his yard and urinating, marking my territory, and he wasn't having any part of it. You know what I'm saying? He had the look of there was going to be a murder and it was going to happen right here. So I left, and it happened to be the next day I come back, and the entire place is empty. Every pallet's gone. And just this last week, actually, this week alone, and I'm going to show you the picture right here. There was a truck with 200 pallets on it from the same truck that was there watching me take these other pallets. So I went into the business owner, I'm like, hey, you gave me permission? He's like, yeah, I did. Whenever they're there, you can have them. Well, he obviously gave this other guy permission too, because he knew they were all gone and I didn't take them. Totally cool, his choice, but that's where we were at, and they're a commodity, I'm telling you. If you can get a good steady flow of like 3 or 4 hard-based businesses that'll let you onto their property and let you take them with permission, they'll even keep them off to the side out of public view to let you come and get them, just so you don't have to pay to get them taken care of. The other side of this coin is that guy that was picking them up in the picture you saw with the 200 pallets just this week. I found out that he gets so much a pallet and hauls it off about an hour away where they have a pallet company, and they refurbish them and they reuse them. I mean, it's a business, and I couldn't believe the amount of pallets this guy would come up with in the town of 14,000 people. There's a ton of pallets around. You just have to be able to come up with them. Now, some of you might think, I'm not going to go through all that work. I'm just going to find some old farmer's barn, that's fallen down that he can't use because it's unsafe, and say, hey, can I have that wood? Yeah, them days are over. So it doesn't work that way anymore. It used to be, a farmer might say, hey, what a great way to get rid of this. You get to use it. I ain't got to deal with it. Take all you want. Nope. So everyone knows barnwood's in, right? And maybe that's where I got the idea to begin with, is this barnwood craze. So I went to a lot of places and saw a lot of barns literally fallen or half fallen. First, like, sure, you can do it. X amount of dollars for so many loads. And so they just sell it to get rid of it, but they don't have to lift a finger and I do all the work. Yeah, I did that with pallets, but if you have a barn, guess what? It's all one color. How many different colors do you see here? And that's kind of what I was after. It's kind of like the agriculturalists or farmers with rocks. Used to be people go out and disc and plow and harrow, hit rocks, and they pull them up out of the field because they break their chisel plow or their disc blades, and they set them off to the side, and anyone could come and get them because those are the devil, right? They break farm equipment. Nope, not anymore. What they do is they put them in huge stacks, and they charge you so much a load to come and get them. People were finding ways to make money in ways they didn't before because times aren't that great. That's why you're watching. So now that you have 3 or 4 different companies or businesses allowing you to take the pallets, you want to keep on their good side. You want to be a good person. I always say take the high road. So taking the high road with someone that's allowing you to do something that could cost you money and save you thousands is if they put crappy pallets out that are broken, they're not the size you want, I still took them anyway. I took them anyway just as a courtesy for them allowing me to do it. I brought them back. I'd pilfer through them and see what we got. And you'll notice in the first video, after I destructed probably the first 25 or 6 pallets, it became really clear there's going to be a lot of waste. And I didn't want that, but I didn't know what else to do. I have all gas, wood stoves or furnaces or fireplaces in the house, and it's all natural gas, so we don't have a fireplace. And I just felt bad. So I took it out to the Renoco Ring of Fire. That's my fire pit. And everything's Renoco something, Renoco Ridge, Renoco Ring of Fire. We'll get into that later. But took it out there, and in the first few minutes of my first video, you'll see a huge bonfire. And it's massive. And it's taken a lot of time to monitor it. And I don't have time like that. I work a lot. So when I'm not working, this is enjoyable to me to do this. And hopefully it is for you too. But standing there monitoring a fire for hours to get rid of this 26 leftover pallet extravaganza I had going, I just knew this wasn't going to work. And the amount of fire I had would take anyone from Siberia who would want a fire and say, man, that's too hot, get away from it. So that's one bad part about it. I found someone who actually wanted that wood in their wood burning stove to heat their home. And they were so appreciative to have access to that kind of wood and have access to that volume of wood. So I was super happy because now I'm using something that was going to be taken out with a hauling company or the city dump or what have you. And instead of throwing it away or not being reused, if I was lucky enough to get it, this family would come and get it every time I called. They'd show right up, take it, and they heated their house with it. I had no trash left over at all. It was just awesome. So that worked out well. The other piece of advice is take all the pallets, and the other half of that is make sure you're looking closely at it. So a lot of things I read before I did this project was make sure they don't have ants, termites, spiders, all kinds of stuff living in this that you could transfer into your home. Especially, a garage is one thing, that's not cool, but in the house, that is not happening. So watch what you're doing. And if that stuff's infested, remember where you're getting that. Make sure it's not the location where you found the wood, and it's just the wood. And if it is just the wood, you can manage that. So that's something to think about. So now that we had the pallets on a continual basis, and I knew I had to start breaking them down, this was the next step for me. What did I use and how did I do it? So I used, and you can see it in the previous video, but I don't really explain it, is 2 hardcore plastic sawhorses with just a 3/4 inch plyboard over the top of it. I used that as my operation table. And then as I laid just 1 pallet on, I'd scoot it off to the end of that plyboard, and I'd take a 4-pound hammer, and I took an oak 2x4, and I would pound the boards out with a 4-pound hammer until they came loose. And I'd just keep forwarding that and keep doing it until all those boards were loose. Then I'd flip it over, and I'd do the same thing. A lot of pounding, a lot of stress. I mean, And I started this in August. So it's like in the 90s outside. And here in Nebraska, I can get up to like 100, no problem. So it was like 100 in the garage. It was crazy hot. I had all the windows open, had fans on. You push 100 degrees on you, it's 100 degrees on you. So really hot. So like I'm wearing a bandana in the first video. Yeah, I'm not a Olivia Newton-John fan or something, but not that there's anything wrong with that. Just, I was wearing that for a reason. I was soaking wet at the end of the day, but I loved it. I just turned the music on. It was my way to kind of just forget about work, be at home and do what I like to do. So I started that. Just tearing down all those pallets was incredible until one day, while unloading a pallet, I just reached over to my pickup, just like I am now, just reaching over, and I pulled a pallet off the truck, and my arm I heard something snap. And literally my arm just dangled. I knew it wasn't a break, so I thought I ripped a muscle of some sort, and I did. And I ripped my bicep completely off of my arm. So I had no movement. It was just dead, and I could not move it. I could move my fingers, but not my arm at all. I required surgery the next day. I had a 1 to 5 pound weight limit restriction for months, going through therapy to get this arm to work again. It's still not right, still doesn't work right, but you know, I was kind of a bigger guy and buffer guy, and I lost everything in that arm. It's quick, it's just fast on how much you can lose tone real quick. So I ended up just rehabbing. And I figured I have to get this project going. I'm determined to do it myself. I'm determined not to have any outside help. And I'm determined to do it for $0, except for the cost of surgery. But might have happened doing anything, I don't know. So I ended up looking on the internet. And I saw on Amazon what I call the hooligan tool. It's in the first video. For $59. It's a pry leverage tool that's supposed to break down pallets. And they had a video on there. And I looked at it and I thought, what do I have to lose? It's like 59 bucks. So I ordered it, had it in 2 days. And in the first video that I did, you'll see me actually using it. Here's a picture of it. I could just take it and pry up boards with one hand, and it just worked. So there's like 2 or 3, usually 3 runners, I call them, skeletons, some people call them, stringers, some people call them, but the boards go across these 3 main supports. And you just put it on the support and pry it up, and I did it with one hand. This arm was in a cast, and it was in a, just couldn't even move it. It had a lock brace on it where I couldn't even move it. So I was able to do it with one hand, pretty ecstatic with that. So while I'm recovering and I'm allowed to really use this arm, I broke just a ton of pallets down, just a ton. My friendly family kept coming over to get the excess wood I didn't need. And at that point, I had a ton of wood. With that, I went ahead and forwarded the progression to take the wood and use actual table saw, knowing that all of the walls in here are 16 inch apart with the studs. So the studs are all 16 inches apart. Now, I don't want to get complicated. I'm not a construction guy, but you'll see all these boards are either 16 inches and some are 32, which goes behind this sign. Some are 32. Here's an example of some going over, like this is a 32. So every time I put a board up, I just put 2 nails and I put it in the dead center of the board. And then the next board comes over and butts up against it, and it has 2 nails there. So each stud, 16-inch centers is what they call it. You bring the boards together on the stud and put 2 on each one. A little easier than it sounds, but you'll figure it out. The other thing I found out was when you're going to do a wall like this, start at the bottom. Now hopefully you have a good template of a straight concrete floor or some sort of floor or base that's all level. You have to have it level. Here's why. You don't start building from the bottom up. That's a nightmare. I tried it, it didn't work because I didn't know what I was doing. So I tried to start over and went at the bottom, and instead of going up, I went all the way around the garage. So I do one whole strip all the way around. When I did one whole strip all the way around, I used the same width of wood. Most of the wood here is between 3.5 and 3/4 inch. Some of it is super wide, like maybe a 4.5 or 5. Some of it up at the top is even almost 6. But you can't do one wall starting at the bottom with a 3.5 inch wood as an example, and then where it joins on another wall, use a 4 inch, because then the corners don't meet. Instead, they're off-centered. So I went all the way around with 3.5. Next layer, I might do 4.25 inches all the way around. And I used a table saw to cut them to the widths I needed. And I used a miter saw to cut the lengths I needed, either 16 or 32. I slipped a couple 48 inches in there, but only because they were available. And I didn't do it too much because that's kind of cheating. It takes away from the color variations, and I didn't want it to look the same. Now for the nailing, I wasn't going to buy a ton of nails, and I figured this project would take about 400 pallets. 400. If you ever seen 400, remember that first picture I showed you with the truck that had 200? Look at it. That's a lot of pallets. Times 2. It's a ton of pallets. I figured 400 so I'd have enough choice of the colors I wanted. Make sure there was no deformation in the wood. Make sure it wasn't warped. Some of these pallets sit out in the sun, out in the weather for 2 or 3 years. They get wet, they get warped. So I knew I was going to have a long journey ahead of me nailing, and I wasn't going to sit here and pound all these nails. And before I even hurt my arm, I had already had the Yesterday's Cafe wall done, which you'll see in a little bit. And I had used this. It's a 150 air-pound Bostitch air tank. I'm not sponsored by anybody, so I'm not trying to push something on you, just telling you what I used. With this was a kit that came with 2 of these. One was a 16 gauge and one was an 18 gauge. These are the air hammers. And they work awesome. And in there are the nails, like a finishing nail. You can see that. So it worked really well. I learned how to use it quick. It pumps it up to where I ran about 110 PSI. And with 110 PSI, 100 to 110, that was enough to get the nails through even thicker wood that I used. And I didn't always use the same width of wood, I should say thickness, but I always used the same width all the way around, as we spoke earlier. But this is what I used here. It worked super well, flawless. It was like $200 at a box store. I had to travel to go get it. It actually came with a second one of these, which was just unbelievable, phenomenal deal. I didn't use it. The second one was 18, so I just sold it for like $50. So I got this really cheap, and I use it to pump up tires and on the four-wheeler and everything else that we have to, stuff for the boat and the inner tubes for the lake and whatnot. So this worked really, really well. The next thing I want to tell you about is simply a level. I tried using my dad's old level just in memory of him, and I thought it'd be cool. It was like 2.5 foot long. When you're 8 foot up on a ladder in 10-foot ceilings, and you have to have the air gun, you have to have a pad with your, pry bar and your pencil and this big level, and it just, you can't do it. So I tried to minimize things to still be effective. These are like at Walmart or my favorite, Amazon, for like 2 of them for $7. I'll put a picture on there at the end of the video. But if you don't keep it level, you're going to end up with huge gaps. Now here's a gap. That's a tiny gap, but you can see the gap, where here there's not so much. Now this piece of wood's thicker than this one, so that's why it looks like it has more of a gap. But see how these are all tight and this one isn't? If you don't level it, it's not going to work. You're going to end up with huge gaps, and you're going to try to cut little slivers of wood that are diagonal or that they slide in, and then it just looks like you slapped it together. It's a lot of work to do this right. So I got 2 of these. Why did I get 2? Because I lost the first one. When I was putting this together and the insulation was up, I'd set it on top of the wood. Look at that, it's level. I'd set it on top of the wood. And then there would be nothing but insulation on this side. And then I'd mess around on the ladder and somehow I'd bump it, and it'd fall between the insulation and the wood if it stuck out that far, and go all the way down, no matter how high I was, 4, 8 foot down, whatever. You're not getting it back. Those are kind of dead in the water. So, man, they're only like $7 for 2 of them on Amazon. Easy to do, keeps everything nice and level, just like that. I didn't check that before I videoed this, by the way, it just happened to be level. So this wood is imperfect wood. That's why they live the life of being a pallet. They're not perfect. So it could be second grade wood, grade B wood, whatever you want to call it. It's wood people didn't want to use for something in the house. Well, I say that's ridiculous. I even took the wood and I used it as a frame for around the electrical panel, if you can see that. So that worked out really good, and I'll put a picture on that a little bit better so you can see it as well. But get a couple of these, keep it straight. If you start off on one corner that's off, and then you go to the other corner and it's up, as it keeps going up the wall, it seems like it just keeps getting worse as you go up. So you can't correct it. You're taking hammers and trying to beat it back down, trying to make it level. So just take $7, get 2 of these, and just keep it level. That's all you got to do. Now, as for insulation, I'm in Nebraska. I used R13. Whoa, that's going to cause a lot of controversy. I read and I read and I read. Listen, call your local lumberyard. Call your Menards, your Home Depot, Lowe's. Ask them what people are using for insulating garages. It depends if the walls are insulated or the ceilings, if it's blown in. There's a lot of variations. What kind of windows? If you have windows, I used R13. No discussion. That's what I use. You might do something different. If you're in Alaska, you're going to do something different. If you're in Florida, you're going to do something different. I used R13. The reason I say check it out and call your lumberyard, if you want to spend a lot of money, they're going to sell you the most expensive, thickest stuff they can. Sorry. If you want to save money, find out what people are really using and do that. You can save a lot of money. You also, if you use the wrong thing, can lose a lot of money because you don't use enough of it. So do that right. Now, to put up the insulation, it was not that hard. Again, did it all by myself. Tall ceilings, you're hauling up 8-foot strands of insulation. It's not a daunting task, but it takes some time. I just used a hand stapler. I first tried the ones that tack it on, you know, but I guess you have to be pretty good to do that, and I'm not. So I just used a hand stapler, and a big old hand stapler, and it worked great. Really simple. And then I'll show a picture here that shows exactly what it looks like on this wall when I had the insulation up and ready to start with the wood. So when we designed this garage, we knew it was going to be an oversized 3-car garage, and it was going to be taller than normal, which required different doors. And I offset some of the doors on purpose to be able to kind of put out of the way yet accessible a 1968 Pepsi machine that actually has the door you open and pull the bottle out. It worked. It was all there. We wired for it. When it's all said and done, I didn't like where it was, so I put it somewhere else. Just the way it goes. That left me with this real weird area in between both garage doors that I call the pillar. The pillar required the wood to meet at a 45-degree angle. Hadn't done that before. Remember, I'm not that construction guy. So I used the miter saw to learn how to make 45-degree angle cuts that would evenly match. And remember, when you're making the wall, start from the bottom and going up. If you have adjoining joints that come dead on, you're good to go. But if they're at a 45-degree angle, they have to be cut at 45 degrees so they both match. We'll show a picture of that and what that looks like. It's just going to take a few pallets to get figured out how it works. Went through maybe 3 or 4, believe it or not, until we got it right. And then each layer of the wood as we go up, each row is a different width. So the whole pillar had to be the same width as the wood going all the way around. Hope that makes sense, but here's a picture of that. Earlier I spoke about making sure you have a place to keep the pallets. So as I stated, keep about 25 in the garage when I was working on this at all times. It got to be to where my suppliers would sometimes have more pallets and want me to take them, so I made another trip and I took them. I kept them outside as we started this in August and continued into November, December, and then I had the arm surgery, and into January the snow just piled up, pallets were piling up, and they were outside. Here's a picture of that. So I had to bring the pallets into the garage, which is heated, and I had to melt all the pallets and put a fan on them and wait for all the wire to come out and get them all dry. Do not let your pallets get wet and then put them up on the wall, frozen from being out in the snow or wet, and let them dry up there. Remember, you have insulation behind there. If you do, you have insulation behind there. You don't want that wet, and you don't want to seal in moisture. and you don't want that to sit there and mold and smell and look bad, do it right. Take the right time and just get it dried out before you put it up. Another thing I want you to think about, the reason with pallet wood is because pallet wood has such different textures, different colors, different shades. Everything's different about it. I had people that actually emailed me, and I'll give you that email address in a little bit, and I announced it in one of the other videos, is how they knew my email. They emailed me and said, man, that's just a lot of work. Why didn't you just buy like wood that was just stripped and plain and naked and stain it all? You can do that. If you have a lot more time than I have, you can do that. If you know what it would take, say, in this case, 400 pallets or enough wood to cover this entire 3-car garage, I can't imagine how much stain, how much time, how much effort, how many layers, what colors, letting it dry, not letting it get dusty, where you're doing this at. If you're inside the house, it's going to smell. If you're outside, flies are going to get on it. You can do that, but you're still buying for the wood. And if you use it on pallet wood, it'd just be like, why? It's in a garage. If it's in the house, maybe you want to seal it, okay? But if it's in the house, it's not going to be something that's huge. So I get that. I also had seen people that take pallet wood or regular naked wood, if you will. I mean, undressed wood, stripped with just natural, and take a heating element of some sort, like a green camping gas tank that you use for like a coal and stove or something, and put a torch on it, and they would burn the wood to bring out the essential grains and whatnot. Again, if you got that amount of time, God bless you. I'm happy for you. I don't. I work really hard and I work forever, and I come home and I don't want to make it any harder. So again, I use pallet wood for the different colors and variations. Plus, I'm Irish. If I were to use a torch and try to do this wood, no matter where I was, the fire department would be here in no time and I'd have an issue, and I'm just not going to do that. But seriously, pallet wood was so easy to do. No staining. Didn't have to seal it. It's in the garage. It's been up for a while now. You see exactly what I'm looking at. It's just perfectly fine. So I really enjoy it. So to finish up about pallet wood colors and whatnot, in the next few pictures I'm going to show you different colors of my favorite wood that's here. There's a chocolate striped wood, there's dark wood, there's rugged wood, there's cherry wood. I'll show you a couple of samples of that. And while I was breaking down these pallets, another cool thing was I found a pallet that came from Saudi Arabia. It said right on it, made in Saudi Arabia. I don't know what was on it. I got that one at a carpet store. Who knows where they got it or if they're recycled, but pretty cool to think it came clear from the other side of the world. So I cut it out solely separately and I put it up on the wall as just one of the things. So I thought that was pretty cool. The other thing I want to talk to you about, just garden tools. What do you do with them, right? It's a mess. It's always a mess. So I ended up taking this little thing I got off of Amazon, this little rack that holds about everything. Now you can say, man, that's cluttered. But you know what? Everything comes out of there easy. Everything's got its own space. It can slide around and move so you can wash underneath of it. It works really good. Just really like it. Everything's all there. Not all over the place or in a corner and all these different quarters. There's all the different tools. It's all right here. And it's movable. And I just liked it that way, so it worked out really well. I'll also put up some pictures of the garage that's finished. Before and after we had the walls decorated, if you will, with things. I want you to understand that a lot of the items that are on the walls, none of them were like a big shopping extravaganza where I went out and decided I have to get things to put on the wall and spent however much it would cost to do all this. I mean, I have like 5 LEDs, I should say like neon signs. I have things that I've collected for over 50 years and I'm almost 60. So since I was a kid, things like my top of my FFA fair box that we take to the fair and to show cattle, things from the farm where I grew up. Everything that's here means something to me or my family. So I wouldn't let them come in here until I was done to see it. Everything that I had kept over the years is up on these walls. And it's things from the farm, from fishing to an old Johnson outboard motor even for a boat. A lot of different things that came from places throughout my life, and they're up on the wall. And then I'm going to tell you about one special one that really meant a lot to me, and then we'll close out the video. So every Sunday after church, our family would go to a restaurant called Yesterday's Cafe. And as my twins were growing up, and I'm talking little, man, like, since they were born, all through and including high school, they went to Yesterday's Cafe. Now, Cassie was our favorite manager there, and she'd come over to watch and sit with us and see the kids growing up from little kids to what they are now. So it was really cool to know somebody there, and the place was just like family. Everyone was just the nicest in the world. Yesterday's was sold and bought out by a chain restaurant, and it just seems a lot different now. Not any worse or better, just different. But when this sign was coming down off of the highway, I talked to the owners of the people who own Yesterday's Cafe, and they said I could have it. So I picked it up, and they were going to have to get rid of it and have it shredded. And I just took it and installed it on this wall. It worked out really well. So a lot of memories here, great restaurant. Ended up on Renoco Ridge's wall. What more can you ask for? So here's the deal, folks. If you have any questions, you can always email me at renocoridgeoutdoors@gmail.com. If you have any questions, just go ahead and email me. You can make comments on the video as well. I reply off of there. I can't answer everything and every question you might have, but I'm here to help you. Just like the guy helped me with the water heater, I was able to do it myself for just the cost of the parts. I did this with 326 pallets is what I ended up using out of 400 that I collected. A lot of it wasn't able to be used, was broken, whatever the case. 326 is what I actually used. So I hope you enjoyed watching this. Go back and watch some of the other videos, especially the one where I make this actual wall and you get to see the progression of it. And just remember, I'm here for you to live life, enjoy the things in the great outdoors that the Lord gave you, and thanks for watching Renoco Ridge Outdoors.